Good evening from beautiful Southwest Florida. It is it's a Sunday afternoon here in Florida, and it was a little bit cool today. Temperatures just barely got into the lower 80s, and I thought, what a better thing to do on a cool day such as today than to make something good in the kitchen. And what better to make on a cool day than a little bit of stew? And I started giving that some thought as far as just what kind of stew to make. And I thought, do I have any other choice but to make Hungarian stew, or Goulash leves, as they might call it if you were over in Magyarország. And I know that there's a lot of you out there that watch me that, like myself, have Hungarian in your blood. And I've got a little Hungarian in my blood too. And I was thinking it would be a nice day to have a little bit of Goulash leves in my belly, in addition to a little bit of Magyarország blood running through my veins. So, when it comes to making goulash, it's something that it's quite interesting. You can go from one place to another in Hungary, and the goulash always has a little bit of a different taste to it, or different ingredients and what have you. And Hungarians are very particular about their goulash. I did a video some years back on authentic Hungarian goulash, and while most Hungarians will give me an A for effort, there are some that will be rather quite critical. So to make this recipe today, I thought that I would turn to my book, Cooks Illustrated, and see if there was a recipe in there for Hungarian stew or Hungarian goulash leves. And every recipe that comes in this book, they have a little preface as far as why this recipe works. And what this says is the Americanized versions of Hungarian goulash served in the United States bear little resemblance to the traditional dish. Mushrooms, green peppers, and most herbs have no place in the pot, and sour cream is not authentic to the dish. We wanted the real deal, a simple dish of tender braised beef packed with paprika flavor. To achieve the desired level of spicy intensity, we created our own version of paprika cream, a condiment common in Hungarian cooking but hard to find in the United States. Oh, goodness gracious. I have paprika cream in my cupboard, as a matter of fact, interestingly enough. But anyway, pureeing the paprika with the roasted red peppers and a little tomato paste and vinegar imported vibrant paprika flavor without any offensive grittiness. Searing the meat first competed with the paprika's brightness, so we skipped the sear. We softened the onion in the pot first, added the paprika paste, carrots, and then the meat before placing the covered pot in the oven. The onions and meat released enough liquid to stew the meat. A bit of broth added near the end of cooking thinned out the stewing liquid to just the right consistency. So I'm going to do my best to share this recipe with you, and in doing so, maybe you'll try it yourself. And it goes on. This recipe serves 6, and they say don't substitute hot, half-sharp, or smoked Spanish paprika for the sweet paprika in the stew, as they will compromise the flavor of the dish. Since paprika is vital to the recipe, it's best to use a fresh container. We prefer chuck eye roast, but any boneless meat from the chuck will work. Cook the stew in a Dutch oven with a tight-fitting lid. There you go. Serve the stew over boiled potatoes or buttered egg noodles. So there you have it, folks. Let's get the party started. It is just after 5 o'clock, and I'm hoping to sit down and have a nice dinner, just in time for 60 Minutes, which is a popular show here in the United States. So as Mr. Rogers would put on his sweater, I'll go ahead and put on my put on my apron. And I will start by sharing the ingredients. If I had actually read that recipe, I actually have paprika cream in my cupboard from Budapest. And I probably wouldn't have had to go out and get the tomato paste and all that other stuff. But anyway, let's take a look at the ingredients. And you would be looking at the star of the recipe. This is 3.5 to 4 pounds of boneless beef chuck-eye roast, pulled apart at the seams and trimmed into 1.5-inch pieces. And what I did was I preheated the oven to 325 degrees, and I seasoned the meat evenly with a teaspoon of salt, and I've just been letting it stand for about 15 minutes or so. So there is my 4 pounds of meat. Now to look at the ingredients, the rest of the ingredients I should say, over here you have, what is it? You have 1/3, my apology. You have 1/3 of a cup of Hungarian paprika. You see right there. The exquisite 100% sweet delicacy, pride of Szeged. And I've been to Szeged. It's a nice, it's a very, very nice city. The other thing that you got to have salt and pepper. You want 1 cup of jarred roasted red peppers, rinsed and patted dry. And that's what I have right here. I bought some red peppers and I patted them dry and cut them up and got myself 1 cup. Now people over in Budapest probably wouldn't be using those stinking measuring cups. But, you know, I like to go by the book, so to speak. You also get 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And then you want 1 tablespoon of white vinegar. And I think I might have put 2 in there, so I'm going to have to take 1 out. And then you're going to have 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, which I don't have here on the table, but 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. 4 large onions chopped fine. And I used a food processor to chop those onions fine. 4 large carrots, peeled and cut into 1-inch thick rounds. I don't know if those are 1 inch, but close enough. And then 1 bay leaf. I don't have the bay leaf here. It's on the other counter, but 1 bay leaf. 1 cup of beef broth, warmed. So I'm going to have to start warming the beef broth. And then 1/4 cup of sour cream, which is optional. So those are the ingredients for the recipe. And I think if I step back, sorry for the camera work. I think if I step back, you see here's your paprika cream right here. And I probably could have just used that, but seeing as I'm going to do the recipe, I'm going to stick with the recipe. But there's your paprika cream right there. Eros pista. Eros, I think, is sweet. I'm not quite sure, but anyway. So let's start by making the paste. I've got the ingredients here for the paste, and it tells you to put 2 teaspoons of white vinegar. The recipe calls for a tablespoon of white vinegar, but in here I have the paprika, the tomato paste, I have the red peppers, and 1 teaspoon of or 2 teaspoons rather, of the white vinegar. So we'll put this on here and see if I can hold the camera. Usually I can't even chew gum and walk at the same time, but we'll see. All right, let's take a look. See how this came out. Not bad. Look at that. You can see that well enough. Looks like paprika cream to me. So let's now we're going to put the onions in the Dutch oven and let those cook for a little bit. The onions have been in the Dutch oven now for well, the better part of about 8 minutes. And you put in the oil. So you put in 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and there's the 4 large onions chopped. And then you put in a teaspoon of salt as well, and cook them over medium heat for about 10 minutes, they say, and cook it covered. You don't want it to brown. And they say if it starts to brown, then you should add a tablespoon of water and reduce that heat. So anyway, we've got about another minute or so on the onions. The onions have cooked 10 minutes, and now the next thing is to add the paprika cream to the onions there. And boy, doing this with one hand is a little bit of a challenge. So I'm going to put the camera down here for a moment, but it tells you to stir in the paprika mixture, cook, stirring occasionally until onions stick to the bottom of the pan about 2 minutes. So we'll do that and we'll be right back. And there we have 2 minutes cooking with the paprika cream and the onions. And the next step is to add the beef, just like the little old lady in the commercial used to say here in the United States, "Where's the beef?" So we'll put the beef in, and then we'll go ahead and stir this. So we're going to stir this in real well, and then I'm also going to put in the carrots. So the carrots are going in, and I'm going to put in a bay leaf. So I'm going to stir this real well, and we'll be right back. And just like that, we have Hungarian beef stew. No, I'm kidding. Not just like that. It still needs to go into the oven. So we're going to cover the pot and transfer to the oven. And the oven's been preheated at 325, and the rack has been positioned to the lower middle position. And we're going to put this in the oven, and it's going to be in there. Cook until meat is almost tender and surface of liquid is 1/2 inch below top of the meat. 2 to 2.5 hours, stirring every 30 minutes. So we'll be back in a little while, and while this is cooking, I'm going to make myself some cookies. It's been just over 30 minutes, and I pulled the Dutch oven out of the oven, and they want you to stir it. They want you to stir it every 30 minutes during the two hours. So that's what it looks like. And I'm just going to stir it real well, and then we'll get it back in the oven. Boy, I bet this is going to be good. It smells good. It's been just under 2 hours on the Dutch oven, being in the oven at 325. And let's see how it looks. It sure smells good. Look at that. And I'm going to stir it. Oh, nagyon finom. That's what you'd say if you were over in Budapest or anywhere else in Hungary. You'd say, "Oh, deo, nagyon finom." I think that's what you'd say, at least. So we're going to let it cook a little bit longer. Probably about another, I'll let it cook about another 30 minutes, and then I'm going to add some beef broth to the mixture. I've got some beef broth, a cup of beef broth warming up in the back. So we will let this go for about another 30 minutes. We are just at over 2 hours, and boy, it is looking good. It's looking like the goulash levash that I am so familiar with, having been to Budapest so many times. So we're going to let it cook even a little bit more. You want the liquid to go down about 1/2 inch below the meat, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll stir it and put it in for a little bit longer. All right, we are going on 2.5 hours in the oven, and hopefully we'll have a little progress here. Will you look at that? Boy, does that look good. That looks absolutely delicious. just like Anyu used to make it. Anyu would be mother in Hungarian. But in actuality, I think that Apu would make the goulash. The goulash originated out on the Puszta in Hungary, and that is a large plain where they used to herd cattle, and the cowboys. I'm sure there's a name for them. The cowboys would use a kettle out on the Puszta and make themselves some goulash. So right now, what needs to be done, it says to remove the pot from the oven and add enough beef broth so that the surface of the liquid is 1/4 inch from the top of the meat. So I've been warming some beef broth, and I'm gonna go ahead and just pour that right in. 1 cup of beef broth is what it says. Boy, this looks good. This looks really, really good. There we go. I hope it's as good as the goulash levash that you would get at the for sale pub on the Karut in Budapest. So now it says, return the covered pot to the oven and continue to cook until the fork slips easily in and out of beef for about 30 minutes. All right, so back in the oven. It has been 3 hours, and boy, if only I could somehow figure out how to get the aroma through the video. Let's open this up and see what we got. What in the world? How did that French baguette get in the oven? Oh, those French. You know, they're always trying to figure out what the Hungarians are doing now that Budapest is known as the new Paris. Look at that. All right. Well, we'll have to have the French baguette as well. You can't have goulash levash without some nice bread. So let's take a look and see what we got. This should be done. Oh, there you have it, folks. Look at that. There is your goulash levash. All right, now we just need to serve it up. If only to follow the book, follow the recipe. I was just reading that it says using a large spoon, skim fat from surface of the stew, stir in the remaining teaspoon of vinegar and the sour cream if you're using sour cream. Remove bay leaf, season with salt and pepper to taste, and serve. So, boy, I gotta tell you, I've tried to make goulash levash before, but never have I done it and had it turn out looking just like it does in the restaurants when I'm over there. Now I don't know, as far as skimming out the fat, I'm not going to spend too much time worrying about that. But boy, this looks really good. And then somewhere in there is the bay leaf. But let's put the last teaspoon of vinegar in. There we go. We'll sprinkle that around. And I'm going to forego the sour cream. I could never really learn how to pronounce sour cream in Hungarian. It was like tejföl, something like that. But boy, this looks really good. So I'm going to get this served up and cut up that baguette. And normally you would have this over like some egg noodles, or you'd have it over some egg noodles, or some there's the I thought I just saw the bay leaf. So you would have it over some noodles, or some like boiled potatoes or something like that. And I'm going to have it just as it is. So let's get this served. All right, so I don't know whether it was my mother or my father, but one of the two told me, they said, Tommy, if you're going to do something, do it right. And with that in mind, I thought, you know what? The only thing missing is the gentleman or the gypsy band, if you will, the Roma. The only thing missing is the Roma. I have my kettle. You see, I picked this up. Very, very cute little kettle to have my goulash lavish in, and they would make goulash over an open fire over there in Hungary. But anyway, I have my kettle, and I have my paprika. You see, I brought these back with me from Hungary on a few different trips, and this just adds a little bit of a kick. You just put a little bit of the paprika, and I probably shouldn't be using my fingers. You might, well, I don't know, maybe you do. Who knows? But you put that in like that, and I always would ask. I'd always say, "Kérek szépen kicsi paprika cream," you know, and they would know just what I'm talking about. They'd say "Persa, persa." So I'll put in a little paprika cream here. Stir it in, and I think this is going to be fantastic. This looks just as if I were over there in Budapest on the Duna, and having this. And the meat should be just nice and tender. The meat should just essentially melt in your mouth. Folks, this is the real deal. This is just like if you were over there in Magyarország having some goulash lavish. So boy, try this recipe for yourself. It's absolutely the best. All right, take good care. Have a nice day.